Hello learners, welcome to today's session. Today's session is on mining frequent patterns and association rule mining. Myself, Professor Sandeep Singh Rawat from School of Computer and Information Sciences. And this session I'm going to talk about what is a frequent pattern mining and association rule mining. But if you remember, in the last session we talked about data pre-processing, where we discuss about how do we clean the messy data, how do we clean the noisy data basically. So what is data integration, what are the data reduction strategies, what are the data transformation technique, followed by discretization and concept hierarchy. This session I'm going to talk about what is a frequent pattern mining, association rule mining. And frequent pattern mining we will try to understand with the help of some example. I will be talking about more on market basket analysis. And to do that we need few factors, we need few measures to extract these patterns from the databases. So we will be talking about what is a support and what is a confidence factors, followed by applications of frequent pattern mining and association rule mining, and a priori algorithm which is actually responsible for association rule mining. Now, some people think Elon Musk actually bought the Twitter, but what he actually bought is data. So whoever has the best information wins. That means data is the new oil. And this is where the data mining technologies are going to be used. So basically data mining is the technology which is going to helpful for extracting the hidden patterns from the databases. These databases could be very large. These databases could be from the flat files. And basically data mining techniques helps to identify patterns and trends from these large quantities of data. So data mining basically also known as knowledge discovery in databases, which is actually defined as a non-trivial extraction of implicit, which is previously unknown and potentially useful information from these data. So data mining technique actually help in extracting these patterns from the databases. Now there are various types of data mining tasks. So basically you have a descriptive data mining task, you have a predictive data mining task. Descriptive data mining task involves in basically general properties of the data in the databases are going to be depicted. Techniques like a clustering, association, sequential minings usually we use for descriptive mining. Whereas when we talk about predictive data mining, it actually helps to extract the patterns from the data which where we can do the prediction. So techniques such as classification, regression analysis, deviation detection, that is where exactly we are going to use for predictive data mining techniques. Today's session actually I'm going to talk about mining frequent item sets, which is also one of the fundamental tasks of identifying or extracting different forms of knowledge, because knowledge is also known as a pattern, and this pattern could be in the form of association rule, it could be form of sequential patterns, or it could be form of clustering and classification. Now let's understand what is frequent pattern. So frequent pattern is basically a pattern which occurs very frequently in a databases. That means when we talk about frequent pattern mining, so basically we are talking about finding the regularities in the data. For example, what products were often purchased together? If you really see the trends in US market, they observe that beer and diapers were purchased together. What are the subsequent purchases the person is going to buy after buying a car? Can we automatically profile the customers? These are the few things which actually help us in finding the frequent pattern mining. So frequent pattern mining, basically what I said is the pattern which are coming very, very frequently in the databases. And to do this, basically we have different algorithms. So I'm going to discuss one of the such algorithms called a priori algorithm. Now, to understand frequent pattern mining, let's take one scenario, which is also known as market basket analysis. This is, if you can see the figure, here we have a analyst, market analyst, and whenever the customer comes to the shopping mall, he he just take out the basket and put out different set of items. For example, he purchased milk, bread, cereals. Customer 2 comes, he purchased milk, bread, sugar and eggs and so on. So like that, there are n number of customers are coming. Now the job for the market analyst is which items are frequently purchased together by my customers. Now one can ask why these questions has to be answered. Now to understand this, because the discovery of such association rule can help the retailers or analysts to develop some kind of marketing strategies, and definitely these strategies are going to helpful for increasing the number of sales. Now, to analyze customer buying habits by finding association, you have to put some customers items which are going to be there in the shopping baskets. But what happened, majority of these algorithms are concerned with efficiently determining the set of frequent item set, which I'm going to discuss in the next few slides. And different algorithms for discovery of association aims at reducing the number of database passes. Because what happened when the database do the scanning, every time your algorithm go to the database and scan the entire databases. So what happened when your algorithm is going to check the number of items purchased together, so he will start with the 2 items, then he will start with the 3 items, then he will start with the 4 items which has been purchased together, right? And then every single time he need to scan the databases. So majority of such algorithms are actually working on how to reduce this, how to find out the optimal number of these scanning. Now let's understand the same frequent patterns with the help of another example. So let's assume that there are different transactions we have. So transaction ID 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50, and different customers comes and they buy different items together. So customer 1 whose transaction ID is 10 buy beer, nuts and diapers. Customer 2 comes whose ID is transaction 20, he purchased beer, coffee, diapers and so on. Now to find out the number of frequent patterns, what we need to have. So we need to have an item set. So where we have a set of 1 or more items. We need to have a number of item sets, that means x1 to xk, right? In this case you have a nuts, you have a beer, you have a diapers, you have a eggs, right? All these things are there. Now to extract these frequent patterns, you need to have some kind of factors. Mathematically you need some kind of measures or some kind of technique which can actually help you to extract this. So to do that you have something called as a support and confidence. So support is basically a number of instances which satisfy a rule, right? Now one can say what is a rule basically. So rule, you have a left hand side, if you look at the last line association rule, you have a beer and diapers, and within a bracket we have a 60% and 100%. So 60% says is the support factors. That means within a database, whenever the person has purchased beer, 60% of the time he has also purchased the diapers which satisfy the rule. And when I say 100% confidence, that means this is a proportional of instances that satisfy the left hand side for which right hand side also hold. It means that this is a kind of one kind of prediction which is actually going to tell you like there is 100% chances are there whenever the person is going to buy a beer, he is also going to buy a diapers. So our algorithm, what it does, basically it scan the databases and then he try to devise the number of association rules, right? And these minimum support and these minimum confidence are the user defined constraint, so which has to be defined by the user. That means the user who is actually working on the marketing strategy, he has to be a domain expert, then only he can actually define these values. Now this is what if you look at the sets here, uh, one left side you can see that the customer who buys beers, right hand side you can see the customer who buys only diapers, and the customer, we are looking for the intersection, basically the customer who is actually going to buy both, right? Now after understanding what is a frequent pattern mining, now understand what is association rule mining. So both are similar here, but only difference is in association rule mining, finding frequent patterns, this is what the job of association rule is, finding association, finding some kind of relation among the set of items. And this could be in the transactional databases, this could be in a relational databases or any other information repositories. For example, whenever we talk about association rule mining, this is what the rule will form as. So left hand side you have a body, right hand side you have a head, followed by within a square bracket you can see that there is a support and confidence. One example which we saw in the last slide, where we have given that whenever the person is buying a beer, he is also buying a diapers. In this example, you can see that one example we have given, X is the customer. So X, whenever he buys a diapers, he also buys the beers with 0.5 support and 60% of confidence factors. For example, another example, if you see that, what is a major? So whenever the student X take the majors in computer science CS and takes database as one of the additional subject, there is a most probabilities, like there is a 75% chances are there that he is always going to get a grade. And there is 1% existing databases says that whenever the person has taken the computer science and he has also taken the database, he also always get a grade. So this is a kind of support you have, this is a kind of confidence you have. Now this is what the rule will look like. So an association rule will be in the form of X to Y here, where X and Y are the subset of item I, and where X intersect Y is going to be empty. That means no two item set are going to have a common values. Each rule has a two measures, that is what I have shown in the last slide, right? So you have a support and confidence. So support, which another definition we have, which denotes the frequency of the rule within the transaction. That means it actually satisfies that whenever there is a within a database, whenever there is a X, there is going to be a Y, and this is the formula what we have here. In the same case, you have another measures, confidence, which denotes the percentage of transaction containing A, which also contains B, right? In this case, these are the formula, probability of B by A is equal to support of A to B and support by support of A factors. So basically all these factors are defined within a algorithm here. So basically what happened in case of association rules, with association rules there is no class attributes. So usually these class attributes we use in the form of classification, right? So where there is always a class values, there is always what you call either yes or no as a two class, whether there is going to be a different weathers tomorrow. So there is going to be always class in case of classification techniques. But when we talk about association rule, in that case there is never going to be any class attributes. And rules can actually predict any attributes and combination of attributes here. So basically what we need is we need a different kind of algorithm. So very popular algorithm known as a priori, which has been devised by the Indian author, that Indian scientist. His name is Scientist, and with his co-author, they actually proposed this a priori algorithm in 1993, somewhere in 90s, early 90s, and from there they actually started working towards the marketing strategy and all. Later on, they have also taken to the different other areas. Now let's look at the different application. Before actually I talk about the a priori algorithm, let's look at the different application of association rule mining or finding frequent pattern mining. So basket data analysis, that is one example we saw in case of retailers. They want to find out what are the two items the customer has purchased together, right? So that you must have seen nowadays, like whenever you go to the shopping mall, at the dairy area, you always find all the dairy items together. If you are a non-vegetarian, you always find all the non-vegetarian items at one place. If you are looking for the vegetables, you always find all the vegetable section at one place, right? So that was one of the major strategy which the retailers has kept in mind. There is another application, cross marketing, people like catalog design, loss leader analysis. Like all these are the sales techniques, which is actually going to helpful for the marketing persons to increase the number of sales. So these association rules are also used in the clustering. These are also used in the finding the classification. Many times we use these association rule mining or a priori techniques as one of the pre-processing technique, which we have discussed in the previous session, where we said that you should have some kind of pre-processing techniques in order to get the quality output from your databases. So people have used association rule mining, people have used frequent pattern mining in the form of clustering or in the form of classification technique as a pre-processing tools. We have also used in the finding the sequential patterns. We have used in periodic patterns, finding the structure pattern. Sometimes you are looking for some kind of DNA analysis where you are actually looking for some kind of patterns. These association rule mining techniques can be used there. Now, after briefly understanding about what is association rule mining, what is frequent pattern mining, and understanding different applications of association rule mining, let's talk about the major part, like how exactly the these computer system or the program extract these rules, right? That's the major question. So for to do that, we actually use the a priori algorithm, and these a priori algorithm is used for mining frequent item search for Boolean association rules. It uses bottom-up approaches where frequent subsets are extended one item at a time, which is known as a candidate generation. This I will discuss in the form of pseudocode. And there are groups of candidates are tested together against the data. So what exactly happened? Every time you have to find the candidate data, you need to scan the data. So when you are looking for finding the two item purchased together, right, some kind of association, so basically you are scanning the database once. Then second time when you want to look for the find purchasing three items together, so what you are doing is you are looking at the databases again. That means you are scanning the databases again, right? So what is the basic concept here? So basic concept, the main concept here is what is given here. So we have a database, right? So all the transaction databases have been given here, and each transaction is a list of item purchased by the customer in whenever he visits to the marketing strategy. So you have a transaction IDs, and with the help of those transaction and frequently purchased item together, this is what is given here. Now what we need to find out? So we need to find out all the routes that find us some kind of relation and some kind of presence of one set of items with another set of items. For example, 35% of the people who buy bread also buy butter. Or you can say that for 35% of the people who have purchased milk, they have also purchased the bread together. Right? This could be one rule here. Now what we need to do here is we need to have a few more steps here. So basically, whenever we want to work on the a priori algorithm, it runs in the two steps here. The first step is finding the frequent item set. This is what we have discussed earlier. So frequent item set, the item set which occurs frequently in a databases, right? And to do that, what we have to do is we need to use those measures, right? We talked about support and confidence. So what we do is we use minimum support and we also use minimum confidence. Minimum confidence we use for generating the rules. So we have one of the most important property here that is known as a priori property. That means any subset of frequent item set must be a frequent. Now, how do we know that the item set is frequent here? Okay, let me just take back to the example which I was talking here. Now, if you look at the diagram here, you can see you have a 3 beer, right? You have a number of nuts are 3, diapers are 4, eggs are 3, and beer and diapers have purchased 3 times. If you look at these transaction, right? So if I define minimum support as 3, right? That means it also satisfy beers, it also satisfy diapers, it also satisfy what you call beer and eggs and so on. 3 and more than 3. But if I say my minimum support is 5, I'm not talking about in terms of percentage. Just understand that if I say minimum support should be 5. So minimum support identify what is the number of items which have been purchased or bought together, right? So when I say 5, because the databases doesn't have any transaction where the 2% has purchased, 2 items have purchased more than 3 times here, right? And if I say 5, that means no rules are satisfied. That means none of the frequent set will be identified in that case. So while you are setting minimum support and while you are setting minimum confidence factors, you have to be a domain expert. So you have to be a very knowledgeable person who can actually set these values, right? Now coming back to that algorithm where I was talking about a priori properties, which says that any subset of frequent item set must be a frequent. So if AB is a frequent item set, right? And suppose assume that A and B count is 4, right? And minimum count we have given as 2. That means both A and B should be a frequent item set. So it should be given in our transaction that both A and B also should satisfy the minimum support constraint. And once you have find out this, repeatedly, iteratively, what you have to do is you have to find the frequent item set from cardinalities from 1 to k. And to find this frequent item set, every time you have to scan the databases. That is what I was talking earlier. And to do that, what you have to do is you have to join the candidate item set with the self, right? So that is how you do the join operation. And once you get all your frequent item set, what you do is you actually use this frequent item set to generate the association rules, right? And this is the actual pseudocode, how exactly the pseudocode look like here. So you have a joining step and you have a pruning step. So joining step, you do the calculate the candidate CK is generated by joining LK minus 1 right here. And pruning step where you do the candidate LK is the frequent item set of size K, and you start by finding one item set first, then 2 item set here. So L1 which defines the frequent item set for having 1 count, then you will have a 2 count and so on. And once you get all the frequent item set, what exactly you are going to do is you are going to do the generate the rules. And to do that, what exactly you have is basically you can use the minimum support and minimum confidence factors. And to do that, what exactly one can do is you can use the minimum support factors, that formula which I've shown you in the beginning, that support formula and confidence formula. And with the help of these, you can actually generate the association rule. And one of the major factors, or one of the most difficult things happens in case of a priori, is the number of scan here, right? So every time you have to find the frequent pattern item sets, you have to scan that database again and again, right? And to do that, there is one more advanced version of what you call these association rule mining, that is known as epigrowth tree, right, which I'm going to discuss in some other class. And epigrowth tree is basically a frequent patterns growth tree, right, where you just scan the database twice, not more than that. And to do that, basically you scan the tables, and then number of scanning tables are going to be reduced. Okay, so today's session, what exactly we understood is frequent pattern mining, what is association rule mining. We try to understand these frequent patterns and association rule mining with the help of some example. And market basket analysis, sometimes it is also known as MBA. And like people use a lot of these terms, right? And we talked about support and confidence, different application. And then in the next class, I'm going to start with one of the examples. Thank you.